Highbridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents Mama Gone by Nina Foxx. Read by Allyson Johnson.
1. Mama put me up on the jukebox. I could see everything from there, even all the people in the room. "Sweetie is my little lady," she said. She steadied herself with one hand and pushed away from the bar with the other. Her skin was fair, and the bluish veins showed through like she was much older than her 30 years. They all turned and looked and smiled at us with that plastered-on, woozy kind of smile. The smell that goes along with men in bars followed their heads as they turned, and I could smell it strong, leaping out at me. I heard Grandma call this preserved in alcohol. I smiled because I knew I was supposed to, but I was a little scared. Butterflies swam in my stomach, and I bounced my legs off the jukebox to help calm them down. From where I was sitting, I could see over the top of everyone in the room. Mama and I were the only two ladies here. I guess the other ladies didn't need medicine, only men and Mama. Mama said that other ladies took their medicine at home, but Daddy didn't let her have hers there, so we went to get it. Sometimes, just like now, she took me with her. I really didn't understand it all. Medicine is supposed to make you better, but Mama seemed to get sicker and sicker after she had it. Frida Payne was singing "Bring the Boys Home." Everyone had forgotten about me. "Turn it up, Jeffrey, turn it up." Mama closed her eyes slowly and opened them again. Her head moved to something deeper than just the rhythm of the song. "Bring 'em back alive," Frida said. Whenever I heard this song, I wondered who she was talking about. Mama liked it, and she played it over and over at home. She played it so much and danced and cried out for Junebug till Daddy threw the record player in the yard. I was sad when he did that. I couldn't play my Muffin Man song anymore. We tried to make the record player work again, but it was no good trying. It just wouldn't go. Daddy apologized to Mama, and when I asked him why he did it, he said because that song made Mama sad, and he couldn't stand to see her cry. Maybe that was why I didn't get beat like other kids on our block. I cried as soon as I got in trouble, so Daddy just left me alone. I didn't know where Junebug had gone, but I sure wished he would come back. They said he went someplace to fight folks. Mama and Frida wanted him back like I did. How come he can fight and I can't? I asked the same question over and over, but I never got an answer. It was almost like they thought I didn't understand how things worked, but I did, more than they wanted to say. Junebug was the best big brother a little sister could have. He bought me ice cream and took me everywhere he went, even to see karate movies. He had an afro, and people called him Red because he was the color of the Alabama red dirt that Auntie called Baby dirt. She baked it in the oven sometimes and ate it, too. I liked when she did stuff like that. Folks in New York never bake no dirt, but folks in Alabama ain't ever seen too many folks like Junebug neither. I wanted an afro like Junebug, but Mama said no afro for me. We tried it in secret one time, but my hair wouldn't stand up. To tell the truth, his didn't stand up either, not really. His fro was always sort of flat on one side, but that was okay with me. He still looked cool.
"Elva, can that sweetie pie of yours dance?"
One man hollered at Mama, although he didn't have to. He was standing right by her, and the music wasn't really that loud. The fat man kept wiping the bar, and Mama laughed. She put me on the floor at the same time. "Dance, baby. You show 'em your stuff." She almost spilled her drink on me, and I felt sort of trapped with all the big, smelly people around me, but I danced anyway. When Frida said to turn the ships around, I did one of my best spins I could. I put myself far away. I imagined I was a ballerina, like on TV, but with more soul. I twirled and bopped as best I could, halfway listening to the music. I wanted to take dancing lessons, but Mama said I was too young. I asked Daddy if I could, and he said he didn't want no buck-dancing niggers in his house. He said I needed to concentrate on learning to read and write so I could make something of myself. I asked Grandma what buck-dancing was. She told me to get away and to go play before she got her switch. Grown-ups were so confusing. I heard her ask Mama what they were teaching me up in the north. Frida was finished now, and I stopped dancing and looked at Mama. Some man started to sing about loving somebody being wrong and he don't want to be right. I don't understand that either, because whenever I called Grandma, she was always telling me to make sure I do right. This man was singing about doing wrong, and everybody was singing along with him. The song was over, and everybody went back to smiling and grinning at me. The man with one leg behind the bar gave me a soda. I looked at Mama, and she nodded to me that it was okay to take it. He popped the top for me with his can opener, and I drank it directly from the can. It fizzled as it went down, and I thought about the burn in my throat and followed it down to my tummy. "Say thank you, sweetie," Mama said. One piece of her hair had fallen into her face. She pushed it away. She always called me Sweetie. I think some folks thought my name was Sweetie, but it wasn't. My name is Monica Denise Wooten. I am 7 years old, and I'm going to start 2nd grade in school. I said thanks to the man in my small voice, and Mama took my hand in her real soft one with the thin skin. He gave me a nickel and smiled at me with a wide-open grin. I could see that he was missing teeth, too. I looked behind the bar now, and I stood behind Mama's leg and took a peek around her skirt. It scared me and was exciting all at the same time because I knew the man only had one leg. The other leg was a peg. Every time I asked, Mama said that Sugar took his leg. I wondered who Sugar was, and I also wanted to know why she needed an extra leg. They always laughed at me when I said that. Mama told me to remember not to ask Daddy that question. I guess I would have to explain to him why I was in a bar taking soda and money from a man with one leg and missing teeth. It was bright outside, and I blinked when we stepped into the light. I didn't know why they didn't turn on more lights in that place anyway. It was kind of early, and I knew we were going home now, so Mama could go to sleep. She came home from work at the hospital in the morning before Daddy left for work. Mama is a nurse, and she takes care of crazy people. At least, that's what Daddy said. We drove her to work at the hospital that locked its doors every night, and she got a ride home with somebody else. We had to drive her there because somebody stole her car. It was a yellow car with stripes down the middle, and my Daddy gave it to her. She loved it, even though it had a dent in the front from where the truck hit us. The truck really backed up onto us while we wasn't moving, but Mama said it hit us, so I said it too. Anyway, the police found the car later and we went to see it. It didn't look like much of a car to me anymore. It didn't have no wheels or doors left. I looked in what was left of the trunk to see if my peppermint twist was still there, but it was gone. I knew it would be. Any thief with sense would want it. It was such a great toy. My favorite. It had a ring on the end of a string with a ball attached to the end. Mine was all purple and pink and yellow. You put your leg into the ring and swung the string around and jumped over it with the other leg. Too bad that it was gone, because I had almost learned how to do it, almost as good as the big girls. I only got my legs wrapped up in the cord occasionally. It felt so good to put the ring around my skinny leg and look down as I swung it around and around. I hopped over it with my other leg almost perfectly, almost every time. But it was gone now, just like Junebug. Maybe Daddy would get me another one. 2. I stood on the corner with Mama. Not really. I stood there, and she just sort of hung from the fence by the back of her shirt, like she was trying to sit down in a chair, only there wasn't no chair, her eyes half closed and her mouth half open. We stood waiting for someone to come and help us get home, because I was too short for Mama to lean on, and she was too heavy for me to help her walk. I licked my lollipop and watched the people go by. I wondered why they didn't look at us. We had to look funny, a little girl with bouncy curls and a red lollipop, and a mama hanging on the fence. But no one turned their head to look as they passed by. They just went by, sneaking peeks at us out of the corner of their eyes. Their stares made my cheeks burn. I knew that we were not ordinary. I yearned for ordinary every day. Mama had too much medicine, I guess. James helped us this far. I could see our house from here, and I could see the neighbors in the windows, too. No one came out of their house to help, but I knew they saw us. Folks around here saw everything. I thought Mama was sleeping. Drool came out of the right corner of her mouth and rolled down her chin. James got tired of helping Mama, so he went to see if Daddy was home so he could come and get us. James was weak. I had never seen him eat food, only drink the same medicine that Mama did. But I figured everybody eats something sometimes. Time moved in slow motion, with Mama drooling and hanging from the fence, and people walking by, secretly watching but not helping. It felt like we had been waiting a long time. Once we got home, I knew Mama and Daddy would fight, and Mama would end up crying, and she'd finally shout, "Goodbye, cruel world," like she always did. That's the way it goes. Every now and then she tried to get up off the fence, but her legs acted like jelly, and they couldn't hold her weight, and she flopped down like my Raggedy Ann doll. If her shirt wasn't caught on the fence, she would have fallen on the ground. Every time she woke up, she asked, "You here, sweetie pie?" Like she thought I might have gone somewhere. I knew that I had to stay with my Mama no matter what. I didn't know how to cross the street. Finally, Daddy and James were coming. I could feel Daddy's anger as he got closer. It rolled from his head and vibrated through the air like lightning rolls across the sky in the summer. Daddy stepped up and ran his hand through my hair, but didn't say a word. Instead, he picked Mama up and cradled her like a baby. James made a move to help like he could, and he stumbled. My daddy sucked his teeth and pushed him away, but still no one said a word. "Bye, Mr. James." I was the one to break the silence. I smiled at him and managed a very small wave. He didn't say anything, but instead he licked his mustache, then rolled it between his fingers. He watched me and Daddy and Mama as we went across the street and up the steps and into our house. Mama was awake now, and I knew they were going to fight. I made my way up the stairs and to my room, but no door was going to keep out the noise, not really. I didn't even try to close it. At first all I could hear was the bass in Daddy's voice, and although he was calm, his calmness was really covering his anger. He was good at doing that. The more upset he got, the smaller his voice was. I couldn't hear the exact words, but I knew what they were saying. This wasn't the first time. Daddy wanted Mama to stay out of the bar with the men in the jukebox. Mama didn't think he understood. I could hear it before she said it. "Goodbye, cruel world." I could never tell exactly what she meant by this. Where was she going, and why was the world so cruel? Doors slammed and Mama stomped up the steps. My little brother cried in the next room. He was very little, and he cried all the time. I listened from my room as Mama talked at Daddy, who was still downstairs. She was crying now, and I knew she was putting things in a bag. "The girl can stay with you." Whenever they fought, she never called me sweetie. Then I was just the girl. Mama was sniffling and talking at the same time. It was always the same. "She likes you better anyway.
I am taking my baby. You can't have him.
Oh, Elva, be reasonable.
Daddy was upstairs now, and his voice was still calm. I didn't even flinch as I listened. We went through this drill all the time. She wouldn't even say goodbye, I knew that. More stomping, more yelling, doors slamming. Finally, I heard the car start up, Daddy's car. My mama and brother were in it. If she really didn't come back this time, I would miss her, but not him. Never him. Seems like this all started when he came. They weren't going nowhere but to the park. She took us both one time. It kind of depended on how she felt. They were going to go and park and sit until the cops told them to move or she got tired, and then they would come back. There would be no sounds, and everyone would act like nothing had happened, and we would all drive her to work once again. I could hear the clock ticking for a long time, and I finally fell asleep somehow. No one came to talk to me like parents talk to kids on TV to tell me that it would be all right. I wondered if they really thought I couldn't hear them or that I didn't understand. I understood more than they would ever know. My grandma said I was an old soul. Daddy shook me awake, and I realized that things had happened just as I thought they would, and it was time to take Mama to work. We all moved silently to the car, and no one said a word. Daddy turned on the radio, and Mama rolled down the windows. We sang along, and for a few minutes, things were as normal as they could be. 3. It was my first day of school, and I was excited. Mama bought me a new dress that made me look like a sailor girl. It was blue with a big, wide, square collar. She ironed it for hours, and the skirt swung when I twirled around. Mama hadn't had anything to drink in a long time because she was happy, but I knew that wouldn't last long. I went with her to the doctor yesterday, and he told her that it was back. She almost made it, too. They said if she made it 5 years, she would make it all the way. Mama cried when the doctor told her the news. I cried, too, but I was crying because Mama was. It was never explained to me, but I could tell by how sad my Mama got that it was real bad, worse than ice cream without the soda. This morning I was already awake. I could hear Mama coming up the stairs, and instead of getting up, I closed my eyes and squeezed them shut. I pretended to be asleep. If my eyes were closed, I knew she would kiss me awake, and I couldn't wait to let her do it. I loved the smell of her hair as it flopped in my face during the kissing. Wake up, my sleepyhead. Do you know what today is? Her voice was soft, and I could tell without looking that she was smiling. I knew she could tell that I was really awake, but she enjoyed this wakey-wakey game we played as much as I did. I kept my eyes closed, even though I couldn't keep a straight face, and started to grin like the Cheshire Cat. Wakey, wakey, rise and shine. Her sing-song voice almost made an echo in my small bedroom. There was no need for me to answer because she was as excited as I was. I smiled with her as she talked to me and told me about how smart I was and how much fun second grade was going to be. She didn't need to reassure me like on TV. I already knew I would like school. Mama helped me into my dress and fussed over me. She spent a long time ironing my no-iron dress and making sure my socks were frilly and matched just so. She even bought me a book bag, although I didn't think you'd need such a big book bag for second grade. The school wasn't far, just up the block. I knew where it was and wanted to go by myself, but Mama said she was going to take me anyway. I think she was more excited about going back to school than me, although I didn't think that was possible. The happiness ended when we went downstairs. Everyone was silent while we ate breakfast. Junebug didn't even fight me for my orange juice like he normally did. He came home from fighting folks 3 weeks ago. Everyone was glad about that around here. A lot of people that went to fight didn't seem to come home at all, and folks were walking around wearing bracelets with those people's names on them, like that was going to bring them back. Mama told me that some of those folks were missing in action, like they just popped into somewhere else. Magic. Chills ran down my spine when she said that. She said they might even be prisoners of war. I felt my stomach starting to get nervous as I played with my fried egg. I normally liked fried eggs, but this time the excitement of school and the silence in the room was squashing my hunger for food. I think the doctor told Mama something real bad yesterday. She had been going to the doctor a lot, and yesterday was one of those times. When she came home, she was crying, and Daddy even came home from work early. He almost never did that. Even Junebug cried. I don't think I'd ever seen him do that before. They called Grandma down south, and all of my Mama's brothers, and all of her sisters, too. No one told me anything, and they all whispered in the phone for a long time. Hours. I wasn't supposed to know what was wrong, although I could tell that something was. Every time I came into the room, they all got silent like they were now, and tried to hide their tears behind their fakey smiles. And then it was over, like it never happened. Mama eventually started fussing again over me starting school, and then stayed in her room the rest of the night. Even with all the strangeness in the house the past couple of days, I could not wait to get dressed up and to go to school like normal kids. The girl next door wouldn't go until next year, and she had been asking me every kind of question. She was sure that I knew everything because I was going to school, and I had been answering every question. What I didn't know the answer to, I made up. She wasn't too smart because she believed everything I said. I made a game out of it just to see how far I could go. All I heard in this room was the clink-clink of silverware hitting the plates. My family was real good at trying to act normal when nothing was. You didn't have to be able to predict the future to know a storm was coming. I just wondered if it would be today. 4. School was fun. I liked it a lot. We played first day games and went to the library. We all had to pick a book and then write about it. My teacher read to us, too. She was young and nice, and I thought I was going to like her a lot. Mama picked me up from school, and I talked all the way home. You should have been there, Mama. I read out loud in my best voice, and the teacher made me read my assignment out loud in front of the whole class. Mama seemed far away from the happiness she had this morning. Did she? She said. Her smile was thin and weak. Yes, she said it was the best one out of all of them. Mama nodded and smiled, but there was a faraway look in her otherwise beautiful eyes. She didn't speak or ask me any questions. She just listened. I could tell that she was still a little worried about whatever the doctor said. We finally made it home, and instead of asking me if I wanted to help her cook like she always did, Mama went to the kitchen by herself. Don't you want me to help you, Mama? I was surprised that she hadn't asked me, so I figured she was preoccupied, and I helped her out a little. She didn't answer me, and started to pull the pots out of the pot closet. Maybe we wouldn't cook together anymore now that I was in school again. She even forgot to turn on the radio like normal. I did it for her, but she didn't seem to notice. If the radio wasn't on, dinner wouldn't taste good. That's the way it worked. Our singing along with the music and acting silly added a little something special to every recipe. I stood behind Mama just in case she needed my help while she cooked. She always said that my help made the food just right. She reached out and turned the knob on the stove, but nothing happened. The stove just made that click-click sound it sometimes made when the eye had no intention of lighting. Sort of like it was making fun of us and sucking its teeth or something. I smelled the gas almost immediately. Mama had to step around me because I was a little slow getting out of the way. She still had not said anything at all to me. It was like she was in some kind of trance or operating on automatic. She reached for a match from on top of the brown aluminum dish chest. They were up there, so we couldn't get them. The matches were moved up high after I went to the kitchen one night to try and make a potion that was like Grandma's brew. I mixed everything liquid in the refrigerator together to try and get the color right. It tasted horrible. It didn't make any sense. It had looked like it should taste good. In slow motion, Mama ran the match along the side of the dish cabinet, and all at once she paused as a flame hopped onto the end of the matchstick. The way matches light is magic. Flames just appeared at the end of a little stick. Instead of holding the match to the eye of the stove to relight the pilot, Mama turned and stretched her slender arm up toward the plastic kitchen curtains. She was so proud of those curtains when she put them up. I was frozen in place. The little match flame transferred to the plastic curtains, and I stood still, watching as the curtains were quickly taken over. They didn't burn like I thought they should. Instead, they melted. Stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. The commercial screamed inside my head as I watched the curtains transfer the flame to the kitchen wall. I could taste the fear rising in my throat. "Call 911, baby girl, now!" Mama was speaking to me. The flame had snapped her back as if it transferred to her, too. I didn't remember the steps in between, but the phone was in my hand. "My kitchen is on fire!" I couldn't hear anything the operator said because Mama grabbed me and I dropped the phone as we ran through the house. The rooms went by in slow motion. Dining room, living room, front room, and without stopping, Mama scooped up my little brother and then we were out the door. We ran next door and Mama talked fast. Sirens screamed in the distance. "Millie, I was cooking and some sparks set the kitchen curtains on fire." "You all okay?" Millie looked from me to Mama and back to me. She was our neighbor and one of Mama's best friends. I didn't think I had ever seen her smile. "You go, I will watch them," Millie said. I knew she meant me and my brother. Mama left us there with the neighbors and went outside to meet the fire trucks. The big red truck pulled up and I watched from the window. In less than an instant, the firemen swarmed over the house like the fire ants in Alabama swarmed over me when I stepped on their hill. They broke every window in the house, one by one, crash after crash. Water was poured in the windows. "The fire's in the kitchen, Millie." None of the crashing came from the back of the house where the fire actually was. "Shush, girl. They know what they doing." Millie flashed her permanent gold teeth and flipped her curly wig. I opened my mouth to speak again, but I decided not to, then closed it so hard my lips made a popping sound. Millie had a tendency to wash kids' mouth out with soap if they said stuff she didn't like. I had seen her do it. It still didn't make sense why they had to break all the windows to me, but I wasn't going to say so, at least not to her. That soapy water was nasty, even worse than the refrigerator brew. In 20 minutes it was over. I didn't see Mama, but Daddy was coming up the walkway. The silence in Millie's house was crazy anyway.
"Hey, Millie, thanks for watching them."
"No problem." She always drew out her words like she was still down south and hadn't lived in New York for 10 years.
"This is Detective Rapier."
Daddy was talking about the man that had come in with him. They all did like grown-ups do and shook hands. I had turned so that my back was now to the window, and the detective man came over to me.
"Hey, cutie."
"Only my daddy can call me that." I pursed my lips. Who was he, anyway?
"It's okay, honey."
My daddy's eyes were soft and watery, and I walked to him. He hugged me, and the detective man got down on one knee. I knew he read in a book somewhere that he was supposed to get down on my level, or at least that's what I heard on TV.
"Honey, can you tell me what happened?"
I looked from him to Daddy, and Daddy...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?